In the gentle haze of a late June dawn in 2025, I guided my custom midnight blue Aston Martin Vantage into Cedar Grove Estates, a tree-lined enclave nestled just beyond the rolling foothills of North Carolina's Piedmont region. The manicured hedges and softly glowing lanterns along the cobblestone drives made the place feel like a storybook come to life. And for me, an independent graphic designer with a penchant for sleek lines and adrenaline, I had finally discovered my sanctuary. That car was more than an automobile. It was my confidant. My sanctuary, from 2,000 hours a week of client demands and pixel-perfect revisions. I called it Serenity, and I treated it like art, its matte finish, the subtle curve of its fenders, every custom stitch in the pale leather seats. Within those gates, I never exceeded 15 miles per hour. Never blared music past 50 decibels. Never revved above a respectable idle. It was tiptoe elegance on wheels. A whisper of sophistication that left me feeling grounded in a world of deadlines and deliverables. But serenity, it turned out, was a fragile notion. Enter Karen, the self-appointed guardian of Cedar Grove's collective peace. She was trim, with permed auburn hair and a judgy tilt to her aquamarine eyes, and she carried herself like a general inspecting her troops. To her, any hint of individuality felt like an affront to her meticulously curated vision of 15-mile-an-hour perfection. Within days of my arrival, she delivered me a clarion call to conformity, a crisply folded note tucked beneath my windshield wiper, declaring, in sharply printed typewriter font, that my vehicle was an intimidation hazard, an insult to neighborhood tranquility, and a threat to the safety of our children. I stared at it over my morning coffee, chuckling at the absurdity. I snapped its photo and filed it under Karen Chronicles, convinced that she would find nothing more to do on account of the community guidelines. No clause restricted exotic cars. No edict-mandated conformity of color or horsepower. 2 Sundays later, I awoke to carnage. The satin sheen of my Aston's hood had been gobsplotched with industrial paint stripper, its side panels scratched in what looked like the jagged heartbeat of hostility. Tires hoisted and punctured in several indiscriminate slashes. Shards of glass glittering like wicked promises across the driveway. I stood there shaking, sweat beading on my brow under a sun that suddenly felt like a spotlight, exposing this act of suburban terrorism. The air tasted of gasoline and anger. That was when Mrs. Langford, or Louise, as she preferred, shuffled up in her robe. Mouth a-trembling. Oh my goodness. She whispered that she had seen Karen alongside the landscaping crew the night before. Swings of a rusted crowbar echoing through the dark. Murmurs about neutralizing a menace. The world tilted. Mine had never felt so delicate or so achingly vulnerable. Inside, my pulse clamoring like a trapped bird, I replayed the security footage from the solar-lit floodlight above my front door. There she was, in her floral housecoat, flinging that crowbar with the ferocity of a spiteful director auditioning for a horror scene, her lip curled with righteous fury as she barked at thin air. Hammer raised like a gavel pronouncing the death of luxury. I pressed pause, stared into the grainy image of her vindictive smile, and felt the electric snap of resolve. This would not stand. I reached for my phone, dialed the number of my attorney, someone I had hired for a minor contract dispute just weeks before, and in a calm voice I said, "Get ready." Over the next several weeks, we built a fortress of evidence. I commissioned expert testimony valuing my damage at $425,000 for replacement cost with custom options intact. I gathered decibel reports proving that Serenity's engine never whispered above 45 decibels within Cedar Grove's boundaries. I printed every hyperbolic email Karen had blasted to the entire Homeowners Association community, branding me a dangerous speed demon and a threat to childhood innocence. Letters that had been carbon copied into dozens of inboxes, like poison. My binder swelled with neighbor affidavits. Cameron swore she never heard a rev. Martin confirmed he saw Karen pawing at the car in the witching hour. And fatigue-ridden Dawn testified that Karen had dragged her out to witness the menace in person. When I asked Karen to settle, she doubled down, citing imaginary statutes she had penned herself, as though her word alone could override the written bylaws. I even annotated the official Homeowners Association manual in comic bright highlighter, circling her fanciful rules in neon pink and emailing the board with the subject line, Karen's Invisible Decrees Annotated Edition. The day we finally entered the courtroom felt surreal. I sat composed in a charcoal suit that felt almost ceremonial, sipping water from a glass like it was champagne, watching as Karen stormed in, clutching a binder of blurred photos. No counsel at her side. My lawyer's opening was a theatrical unveiling, a high-definition screenshot of Karen mid-swing. Sledgehammer hoisted, eyes ablaze. The judge raised an eyebrow. My lawyer narrated her emails, each one unspooling, like evidence in a true crime documentary. Letters calling me a menace, a reckless driver, a menace once more, until the gallery murmured in disbelief. Karen jabbered protests. This is out of context, but the judge peered over his spectacles and observed, "Ma'am, these are your own words." When pressed about her hammer assault, she declared she was neutralizing a high-speed projectile, as though unleashing violence on private property were an acceptable community service. A hush swallowed the room. Even the court reporter froze. In closing, my lawyer summarized property destruction, trespass, defamation, emotional distress. The verdict was swift. The judge pronounced her fully liable for the full replacement cost of $425,000, plus $15,000 in legal fees and a $5,000 harassment penalty. Karen's shoulders slumped as if she had been struck by her own hammer. Outside the courthouse, I found a quiet satisfaction in ordering my new Aston Martin, same midnight blue metallic finish. Upgraded interior stitching with custom embroidery spelling, "Thanks, Karen," in subtle dark crimson thread. 2 weeks later, I glided through Cedar Grove at 10 miles per hour. The soft hum of the engine, accompanied by a gentle chamber orchestra soundtrack, piped through hidden speakers. Karen stood at her front gate, watering her tulips with a deadened stare. As I passed by, undeniable proof that one person's frivolous fury could become another person's triumph. A week after the ruling, the Homeowners Association convened its next meeting. Karen arrived defeated, attempting to justify her rampage as a misguided act of communal protection, but no one bought it. The board voted unanimously to strip her of all leadership roles, to bar her from holding office ever again, citing her reckless misuse of authority. The landscaper never returned her calls. Louise hosted a small gathering to celebrate the end of her tyranny, bringing cupcakes and sparking laughter as she recounted spotting Karen's panic when the court summons arrived. I installed an expanded camera network around my driveway and framed her original complaint letter next to the vivid still from the footage that had sealed her fate. Sometimes at dusk, I sit in serenity and watch the light dance across the carbon fiber accents, savoring the lesson we all learned. A title does not grant the right to destroy, and if you dare to wield vengeance like a hammer, you might just find yourself on the receiving end of justice's own gavel.